start this business at a time where most of your classmates from university and others are leaving the country, where people are leaving in their droves, as people are doing at the moment. They've lost confidence in the future. What gave you that sense of confidence back then that you could do better here and add more value here than you could anywhere else? Because you could have made it big anywhere else. There's this fellow Musk who's done fairly well. He left at about the same time. What made you think you could?
I mean, I think today I've learned that in difficult times, when people aren't confident, that's the time to be investing. I'm convinced of it. I mean, I know it intellectually because people are not focused, opportunities are underpriced, and everyone thinks it's Armageddon. That's the time to build. You know, it's counterintuitive because people feel when things are really frothy and brilliant, that's when people invest. It's the wrong thing to do. So I've learned intellectually over my journey that's true. Questions at the time, I don't quite know. I had a deep conviction of what we could do. I've always had a great sense of the country, in my view, the potential, and I kind of felt it'd be a great thing to build in that time. And I was surrounded, I think, and it's for me a lesson, with positive people that were building. You know what I mean? The only time it's bad to build in difficult times is if there's Armageddon. I believe one of the biggest challenges we have is to try and explain to South Africans and stakeholders that there is progress, not decline. And if we can change the narrative, you know, you can then really get lift. Because I'm a great believer, narrative drives fundamentals, not the other way around. It's a fundamental thing, and I know it as a leader. A leader's role is to shape the narrative, give people hope, find positive signals, and there's a lot of stuff to be positive about. And the other point I know is this issue of loss aversion. You know, we know that from behavioral economics. When people feel there's something to lose, they're motivated. And we have to think about our country of what we've got to lose. It's a massive, complex, fantastic country with problems, but there's a lot to lose. This flippant, running it down and in decline and writing it off is irresponsible. So I have a deep sense as a leader we have to do that, and only if you fear Armageddon should you not invest. You know, and even my sense is, even if wherever you are in the world, if difficult times do come, the effort of building puts you in a better place always.
One thing that I've learned over more than 20 years of interacting with people like yourself and many, many others is that there are a couple of things that people like yourself have in common. One of those, and I'd be curious as to test this with you, is that builders are optimists. And not optimists in the, oh, it'll all be all right, kumbaya, let's sit around the campfire and toast marshmallows kind of way. It'll be, there is an opportunity, we can exploit the opportunity, we can grow in this environment. When there's all kinds of hell flying around, there's no competition really, because nobody else wants to take the risk. And I get a sense from so many of the people who've started their businesses in South Africa in the last 30 years that is a very common thread that runs through them.
I absolutely. I think optimism and the ability to be positive is a fundamental attribute. Fundamental. I don't think it's very important. It doesn't mean that you're not seeing the risks. It doesn't mean that you're not acknowledging issues and problems. It doesn't mean that you don't have downtime and you have bouts of depression and worry and whatever it is that you may personally face. But it's a steely belief that the world is getting better and you can make it through. Whatever the situation is, we can make this thing work. Seeking positive signals is a sophisticated ability. Seeking negative signals is how we coded. We evolved in an environment of scarcity, of physical danger. So our coding is to look for negative things. That's how we survive. We are the descendants of people who looked for lions, who're scared of things. That's why we're here. The people who are positive got eaten, right? But the problem is now, in our world today, we miscode it because the threats are not physical. They are systemic threats, and the threats are not too little of food, there's too much of food. So we miscode it. So we actually are primitively negative. Yet we think, when you speak to people, read the press, people think that these negative views are very sophisticated. If you're positive, you're naive. But it's a mistake.
So what is the genius, then, of Adrian Gore? People hate this question, by the way, because you can't really answer it in a way without sounding cocky. So what is the genius of Adrian Gore?
Well, I mean, I don't acknowledge the label, but I think the attributes I have that have made me successful, us successful, is I think there is a determination and a dogged nature of there's a way through. I think I'm good in ambiguity. I think you have to be able to manage ambiguity. Things are never clear. And I think my skill is I connect dots between things. You can hire brilliant clinicians, actuaries, technology people with IQs of 5,000, but the ability to see complexity and kind of connect the dots between them as to what might happen and where the opportunities are. That, I think, is the thing I do in our organization. Whether I do it well or not, I think it's a fundamental skill, I think, in a very complex, certainly global environment, when you're dealing with healthcare and geopolitical issues and actuarial issues. And fundamentally, I create hope and vision. I mean, that's what I think my role is. So I'm not sure it's a genius, but I'm best at that. As a trained actuary, I can get into the detail, but I'm top-down. I'm not a bottom-up leader. I'm a top-down. I start with a purpose. I start with a vision. And if they drag me into the spreadsheets, I'll do it. You know what I mean? But I won't start on the spreadsheets. I don't believe you build great stuff by, starting bottom-up. You've got to be top-down. So that's my approach.
Hiring people, because also, one looks at the intellectual property within Discovery, one looks at the exco of Discovery. There's nowhere to hide for the individuals within Discovery. By reputation, you put the smartest people you can find in a room, and then you make them sweat, and they have to deliver on it. I mean, it's critical hiring. Had you hired somebody else other than Barry Swartzberg, how different would the journey have been, for example?
I think journey would have been completely different. I think one of our values, intellectual leadership and great people, has been always about this issue of obsession with getting the best people. It's a critical thing. I keep relearning the power of quality of people. So if you, from the get-go, I knew starting Discovery. I think the intuition when you're starting a business, and I think coming out of a corporate is, I want to be the boss, I want to be the smartest, I want to be in my days in Liberty Life, the Donald Gordon who kicked people, sorry, he didn't, but I'm saying, I want to kick people around as well. It's a mistake. If you want to build a great business, you've got to get people truly smarter than you. You've got to, I believe, create an environment where they feel free and safe to be critical. You've got to have a strong, I've got very strong views. My colleagues will know we fight and scream in the exco, but it's a safe environment. And my role is to try and keep it on the even kill. I'm completely obsessed about hiring the absolute best. It doesn't mean I've got the best marks at university. It means IQ is big, but it's bigger than EQ. EQ is big. It's bigger than IQ. IQ itself is not enough. And integrity and values are everything. No matter how smart the people are you hire, if they don't agree with your value system, they're a problem.
At what point did you look at the business you were building and go, this has got application elsewhere? When was that?
It was about 1998, which is actually, when I think now, it was idiotic. We were 6 years out of the gate, right, literally. And we launched only in 93, because it takes a year to build. And in 98, we started a small insurer in Chicago, a health insurer in America. I mean, how mad is that? I think about it. We were so gutsy and, had conviction. But the truth is,
everybody was doing it. There was a mixture of fear about the future of South Africa. There was an enormous self-belief as we were watching SAB take over the world of brewing in Eastern Europe and through Africa and doing all sorts of things. We were riding the crest of the wave. The one thing that we lack today, which we didn't have at all then, was self-belief. It was full of self-belief.
I do believe that. I do believe that. Listen, I think that we had the concept of vitality and medical savings accounts was powerful, and we're getting signals from potential partners in the US that we should try this. So it wasn't a absolutely out of court idea.
This is Destiny Health, right?
This is Destiny Health, and we started this as a startup in Chicago. I mean, so you think about a to-do list. You come to Chicago, you've got no people, no capital, you're a small South African company. But we built, and I'm often asked, the company now is Vitality in the US, and we failed basically. We kind of eventually shut it down as a health insurer. And I've often been asked about this. Was it painful? It was, I hate to be controversial, it was one of the best things we ever did. I tell you, I'm as proud of that evolution as most of the stuff we've done.
But what you did have and what you had created was Vitality, which is now a global program which you've attached in more than 30 countries to 40 insurers around the world or thereabouts. I think I haven't got the latest numbers. But at that sort of scale where Vitality is now the global offering of Discovery.
That's right. I mean, I think the main thing we learned was the power of partnerships. to start an institutional business in America or in Hong Kong, I mean, you got no chance. So the concept of kind of partnering and our ability, I think is unique as a South African company. We partner the best. I mean, it's bizarre that an AIA or a John Hancock in America relies on our actuarial model. It's quite remarkable.
What is it about Vitality that people would rather use yours than create their own? What is built into this thing, the 11 herbs and spices, or whatever the Coca-Cola recipe is that is locked inside a safe in Atlanta? What is, I don't expect the recipe, but there is something in that people feel it's just too complex to create themselves, and they'd much rather just layer yours on top.
So I think at its simplest level, people said it has a very nice loyalty program that links you to health. But in reality, there's a technology layer that makes it possible on the face of the mobile, links it to networks. There's a data layer that links all the correlations and the causal effects of these behaviors on the actuarial factors of death and sickness. There's all the programs that we have, it's Apple Watch with Apple, and so it's a multi-layered issue that is very hard to build. There are competitors around the world, but I think we are the leader in linking behavior into financial services, pricing it in. And I think as it rolls, the data and the combined effect of that makes it harder and harder to copy. As the business gets bigger, you drift into incumbency so quickly. You don't even realize. When you look up, you're just a big, lumbering business drinking cognac in the boardroom. And then it's over.
The principles of discovery, are those the same principles, the same systems, the same ideas, the same values, the same technologies, essentially in every single one of the geographies that you're in? Vitality is vitality, no matter where you are, no matter who you attach it to. The principles that you're applying in Japan are the same as in the United States. What you're doing with Ping An Health in China is the same as what you do in South Africa.
There are variations, but the Vitality model is very, very similar. The verticals we're dealing with, the architecture, the points, different regulatory environments have different limitations on what you can do with health and wealth and how you price it in, but the principles are the same. And I tell you this, the more we stick to the principles, the more unequivocal the results become. As soon as you let things stray, and I've learned that, I can tell you, again, it's something I'm a great believer in. There's a lot of work on this issue, but unless you have a repeatable model, you can't scale. It's a critical thing. I think it's a lesson for businesses. People do well here and they say, well, why don't we try, do something, unless your model is working and you know what makes it work. If you're not repeating it, well, then you're just trying something new, and your chance of success is so little. So scaling a business globally, and I think South African businesses generally haven't done it well, is proper repeatability. Can you repeat and scale? And there are 10 things that work, that you must always do, and there are 10 things that won't work in other markets that you need to know. You're not going to impose a South African culture on the UK or on Asia. It's different. People have different issues.
Some quick questions. How important is luck?
I think luck is important. I do believe Gary Player, the harder I work, the luckier I get. I do think there is something about that. But I do think you do have to be lucky. Timing is luck. But against that, if things don't go well, I do think hard work creates luck. I think if you just keep at it, if you interrogate it enough, it will confess. You just got to keep pushing. So I do believe luck is important, but I don't believe it's the total. I think it's hard work. I do believe that.
Optimism? Critical.
Optimism, hard work, and urgency. Urgency is, to me, you asked about those attributes. We've done a lot of work on this, my team. Optimism, urgency. Don't come with 3 years and 2 years and we'll wait. It's drivel. It may take you that time, but don't start thinking that way. As a leader, you've got 90 days. Innovation is vital. I think success, by definition, is a delta to the mean.
Explain what that means.
Well, success, by definition, is the difference to the mediocre. That is success. You're different. And how you get that is always original. Real success is about some level of difference. Innovation is too broad a word, but some level of doing things differently.